we've gotten into something, it's been me holding down who started. Every time it's been something. It's never been me being the same. Never thrown a first punch in any of those instances outside of just me having a fight with one-on-one person. Where I've moved how I moved, and I've been able to restrain myself when it's time to restrain myself. I've moved when I needed to move. There's more documented fights with most of y'all peer than me. Like, I haven't had fights on that.
Emanny ends up getting confronted for being a crash out and is exposed in multiple ways. He gets clowned, laughed at, and once again turns into the show's favorite punching bag. And to be clear, this isn't me trying to pile on or kick him while he's down. What really stands out to me is how he continues to get treated like the designated target, even when other people on the show are performing terribly. It's strange, it's awkward, and honestly, it doesn't really add up. But let's get straight into it. This recent Patreon episode was easily one of the worst episodes the show has put out in a long time. It was painfully obvious that they didn't actually have anything to talk about, and that's ironic, because one of Joe Budden's main rules when it comes to podcasting is always making sure you have something to say. He says it all the time, yet in this episode, there was absolutely nothing of substance, no direction, no real conversation, just filler. One of the first moments where you see Emanny getting sunned happens early on, when Joe straight up tells him to let Mona speak. That moment alone kind of set the tone for how the rest of the episode was gonna go.
They do playlists and they do rounds. It's like you'll find.
So here's the question. Is Emanny just not great at giving others a chance to speak? Or is Joe simply confident in telling Emanny what to do because he knows Emanny can handle it, unlike Ice? That's definitely something worth keeping an eye on. But then, just a bit later, things take a darker turn when they make a joke about Emanny potentially beating women.
I usually listen to Emanny.
He wouldn't do that to a girl.
No. Emanny is bisexual for sure.
No,
Don't put that on him.
It's a trail because he didn't have to beat down on the subway.
No, not at all.
Not nobody you somebody that tried to
No,
tip
I've never.
That moment was definitely strange, and I think it was handled just okay. But one thing that popped into my mind when they brought it up was that incident with Emanny. Remember when he threw that object at Mark Lamont Hill? Then Melissa Ford stepped in to grab his glasses, and he ended up knocking them out of her hand? Now, I'm not saying that proves anything about him beating women or anything like that, but honestly, it just looked wild in the moment. Optically, it wasn't great, and maybe that's part of why some people feel comfortable making those kinds of jokes. Another major takeaway from this episode was Mona. Her episode was kind of a mix, simultaneously really good, but also one of her roughest ones. Around the 19-minute mark, she admits she struggles with speaking up, and that adds another layer to how the whole conversation unfolded.
That's the new one. Like to bring up topics, or when we chat and what we want to talk about. And sometimes there's topics that I want to bring up, but you guys are so mature, and the conversations up here are so important that I don't want to bother you guys sometimes with silly stuff.
And here's the funny part. Right after admitting her struggle with talking, Mona dives straight into this long, intense rant about finesse 2 times. She's totally wrapped up in the story, going on, and you can clearly tell that the rest of the cast couldn't have cared less. She was completely in her own world. But when it comes to Emanny, the real takeaway from this episode hits when they start discussing how he's a crash-out type, always ready to fight. Throughout his time on the show, Emanny has been portrayed as one of the least emotionally controlled cast members, and this is the same guy who's even gotten into fights with Back Woody.
Great, I'm telling you.
And remember that entire Queen's Flip fiasco? Well, that wasn't the only wild moment. There was also the time when Emanny actually tried to start a fight with Queen's Flip, or at least called him out, asking him to step outside.
Come outside. We got outside and we talked like men.
And then, even further back, there were moments that were even more intense, like the time he actually said he knew my address.
I'm pre-warning you, this is gonna be corny, but I need to do it because I need you to understand that depending on the people that you deal with, Danny, I know what you look like.
I'm aware of that.
I know your full name. I know where you live.
He even knew exactly where I lived, what kind of haircut I had, and the type of glasses I wore. But that's not all. There was also the whole incident with the Good Moms, Bad Choices podcast. Remember when he pushed for them to get featured on the show? That situation eventually spiraled, and Joe ended up getting pulled into some drama because of it.
I don't call them young ladies. These bitches. I've tried to not go that route because I don't think anyone should just be called out their name just because you have a problem with them. But this is past having a problem. This is you doing something with the intent to tarnish and ruin a man and a platform.
Now, to be fair, that situation wasn't really Manny's fault at all. It was Joe's actions that landed him there. Throughout the episode, you can see Emanny and the rest of the cast go through this whole discussion about how he constantly gets caught in these cycles of conflict. Eventually, Emanny just hits his limit. He's done with the back and forth, and sparks start flying with the cast. You can tell he's not having it. He's not cool with the situation and definitely feels some type of way. This is why videos like this are so important. They give context for why Emanny often gets left out of the bigger moments the cast has in public exposure. If there's an article, he's missing. If there's a commercial, he's left out. Even major features, think Rolling Stone, NY Times, or those commercials during First Take, he's not included. And honestly, I think it all ties back to conversations like this and the fact that Emanny doesn't always take feedback well. But it's not all negative. There's some bright news for Emanny. I checked out the first episode of his new podcast, Co-Hoseo, and I thought it was fantastic. Seriously, the episode was fire. Now, the first episode of anything can be a hit, but maintaining that momentum is always the challenge. Interestingly, it started with just around 3,500 views, but it's already creeping toward 10,000. That tells me the show's finding its audience. People are listening, sharing, and clearly enjoying it. And I have to say, Sayo really shined as the star of the first episode, which is always a great sign when your first co-host is a standout. As for Emanny, he'll need to step up if he wants the podcast to reach the next level, because honestly, Sayo was outshining him at times. Maybe that's exactly what he wants, though. Only time will tell if he can take this podcast into new directions. If he's willing to tackle topics he normally avoids, subjects that get him shut down elsewhere, then this show could become a must-listen. He's already surpassing some of the spin-offs from the Joe Budden podcast, like Need to Know and Hot and Bothered, so he's on the right track. The key now is consistency. That's where Emanny struggles. This guy won't show up if he even stubs his toe. Sometimes he delivers when nobody's watching, but when the cameras are rolling, the consistency isn't there, and that's not how this game works. Another funny moment from this episode, Emanny gets left out while the cast is driving. They start talking about viral stories from that week, and immediately you can tell the podcast is struggling a bit, because whenever the cast pivots to viral videos, it usually means there's nothing substantial to talk about. Joe jumps into a story, and everyone's laughing along, engaged and following him. Then Emanny tries, and crickets. They leave him out to dry. Mona even gives him a pity laugh before quickly changing the subject.
Funny is when a dude walks up to somebody in Walmart, pretend like he don't speak English, and then when the person say it back in English, he fake it like the translator says some ignorant racist so he play it back like, you fucking get away from me. And the person's like, no, I didn't say that. He's like, aquí.
You know what I saw that's hilarious? The black people that walk up.
Damn, son. Why they gotta treat him like that? Now, one thing that really seems unfair to Manny is this. I just don't see any valid reason why anyone would think Ice is a better podcaster than him. Absolutely not. That's straight up bogus. Ice? If he had even a fraction of the leeway Emanny gets, he'd be gone in a heartbeat. He wouldn't be able to handle the constant jabs and body shots Joe throws at Emanny. He'd fold instantly. Manny, on the other hand, can take it, and that's why he's still standing. Pause. Damn. I mean, I can't even lie. The way this show affects me is real. And then, a little later in the episode, we see Manny snap. That tension is palpable.
Fly for the sense of jokes.
He don't like that.
So why'd you tell him?
I don't play with that. Joking about that shit.
Nothing I said.
So really, this was just a total roller coaster of an episode for Emanny. And honestly, I don't see anything changing anytime soon. Everyone's settled into their roles so much that even when Emanny tries to set boundaries, nobody actually cares. They just laugh it off. At this point, maybe the smartest move for him would be to keep quiet about boundaries altogether and act like everything bothers him, kind of like ice, so they tiptoe around him and actually protect him. But I'm not holding my breath on that one. Like I said before, this Patreon episode was one of the roughest I've seen. You can almost tell the show is aware it's lacking right now. Behind the scenes, I'm pretty sure Joe and Ian are thinking, all right, we're down at the moment, time to play a few tricks because nothing major is happening. I mean, Joe literally went on Twitter and admitted, yo, there's nothing really going on. What do you want us to talk about? But with artists like Drake and J. Cole possibly dropping new albums, I do expect the podcast to pick up its game. Right now, not so much. You can't expect people to pay $25 a month for the content they put out on Monday. It's just not cutting it. Hopefully, they try something fresh. Maybe a live episode, new intellectual property, or even a reconfigured setup. And let's not forget, Sue Surf is coming home soon. Taxstone tweeted something like, Sue Surf has to do a bid before he gets out. Not exactly sure if that means more months or a whole additional year, but there are plenty of fans eagerly waiting for his return. That said, I'm curious how Sue Surf will fit on this podcast. With 7 or 8 mics on deck, how will he gel with Mark Lamont Hale, with Mona? A lot is still up in the air. At the end of the day, the show right now only goes as far as the topics do. Back in the Rory Amell era, sure, they recorded less, but the magic came from chemistry, not just the subject matter. And right now, that chemistry is definitely missing. The show has become so Joe Budden-centric that when Joe's off his game, as he has been in the last few episodes, the podcast struggles to rise above that. That's just my take. If you actually like this Patreon, let me know. Some folks probably think it's the best thing ever. But honestly, if you really feel that way, maybe you had a lobotomy and didn't even realize.